Welcome to the CEO and the Salesman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Whyatt. I'm the salesman part of the title. Each week, I sit down with CEOs and entrepreneurs to discuss and dissect their journeys, filled with triumphs, challenges, and some good old-fashioned business wisdom. Get ready to laugh, learn, and be inspired as we dig into leadership, strategy, sales, marketing, and everything in between. This is the CEO and the Salesman podcast. Let's get on with the show. Welcome to the CEO and the Salesman podcast, where we talk to Australia's and the world's leading CEOs about what it actually takes to grow a tech business. Today, we're joined by Maxwell Nee. Maxwell is the CRO, Chief Revenue Officer of ScoreApp, a product that I use myself and I've been following for many years, also an investor and an entrepreneur. G'day, Maxwell. How are you going?
Hey, mate. It's really good to be here. Thank you for having me.
An absolute pleasure. Look, I just want to dive straight into it. Let's talk about, what did you do? You know, you were a banker, you're in corporate space, and then you decided that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or have you always been an entrepreneur? How did that journey look for you?
Yeah, good question. So I think deep down, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I sold out a little bit and then went to university and then I got the graduate job and all of a sudden I'm getting paid really well and, but ultra unhappy. And then it just crept up on me really, really bad, to the point where I was like, I can't be here anymore, I need to quit. Plus I burnt out. So then I went through a year of like limbo, where I was doing a bit like part-time jobs and, I got like a few consulting clients here and there. And then that eventually evolved into a digital marketing business, which is my first venture, then evolved into like a business coaching business where we were selling online programs.
Got it. Well, mate, you've just covered a whole bunch of stuff. And so that business coaching business, a lot of people think there's not a lot of scale in that, not a lot of, you can do a lot of one-on-one and you can help individuals, maybe 20, 30 people, but you absolutely blew that up over COVID. Do you want to take us through the journey of how you're going from doing a little bit of consulting, a little bit of coaching, to actually really blowing up that business? Do you want to take us through that journey and the results you eventually created with that business?
Yeah. So, the first thing I'll say is that I definitely can't take all the credit, right? So, we grew, there was 3-4 of us, 3-4 co-founders in the main team. And, when we met each other, it was a bit like putting kerosene on the fire. It's just like the right people meeting at the right time, all hungry. We all had positions to play. We had a striker, a goalkeeper, midfield. Everyone had a position to play, and we just played it really, really well, like a really nice, like ensemble, right? Like an orchestra. And because of that, we grew from 0 to about 250K a month, so like 2.5 million Aussie a year in less than 2 years. Wow. And we're working bloody hard, like 17-hour days type of thing, but it was a lot of fun. And you're stuck at home during COVID, so what else is there to do anyway besides drink wine and work and do Zoom calls? So that was amazing. Like, it was an amazing experience, and really, really taught me a lot. Yeah.
What was the business model?
Yeah, so the business model was, we were selling courses that were priced from $1,000, $5,000, and $10,000 USD, and that was different types of, some courses were video only, some were video plus coaching plus like group coaching, some was video plus group coaching plus one-on-one.
Got it. Okay. And so just want to take me through, because did you use ScoreApp at the time to help you generate and drive those leads?
Yeah, so right at the beginning, before ScoreApp was born, so ScoreApp was born about halfway through this process.
Right. Yeah.
Before ScoreApp was born, we like Frankensteined our own, where we would string together like Google Forms, Google Sheets, plus some emails and some Zapier, and try to get out like a personalized report. And then all of a sudden, my friend and your friend, our friend Daniel Priestley, sends me an email. Yep. Hey, Max, I'm launching this thing. Don't know if you'd be interested in partnering / maybe investing. It's at its early stage. I said, dude, like we spend 10 hours a week trying to stop this Frankenstein version of what you just built from breaking. Like,
just failing twine and good ideas.
Yeah, it was so fragile. And there was zero code. It was just, we had to find, a wheel here and then a windscreen here and then stick it all together type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Hey, look, for the people who don't know, could you just take us through what that is? Because I use the product. I think it's great. Can you just take the audience through what it does and the value it brings to businesses as a pre-product, as a I think Daniel calls it a product for prospects.
Yeah, exactly, right. So what do you know? So it's a lead magnet. So it's a tool that your clients can use to fill in some information, and in exchange for them filling in their information, they get some piece of value, which is often a personalized report, an invitation to book a call, and all that type of stuff, right? Now, there's a lot of lead magnets out there. There's like an ebook. There's 10% off coupon code for new socks, happy socks. There's
Black Friday.
Black
There's lots
Friday,
of,
right?
there's so much stuff out there.
There's tons of stuff, right? So basically, the idea is, if you want your potential clients to give you their information, you need to offer them something in exchange, right? A products for prospects. And we found that quizzes is one of the most powerful product for prospects, because it sparks like curiosity and engagement and a personalized experience for the client. So I'll give you an example. A really famous quiz funnel, like lead magnet quiz funnel, is the body transformation quiz. So it's like, okay, look, fill out this quiz and you find out what body type you are. You're either 1, 2, or 3, and based on which body type you are, you need to stick to a very specific type of regime to achieve your fitness goals. Your summer body by May 2025, right? So So that is a very, very common example that people are like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's really useful for me to know what's personal to me, right?
Yes.
And what's going to help me as an individual, rather than we're all in the same bucket.
Yeah, got it. And so that, and I use the product as I've said, and one I think is really interesting about it is the fact that it can actually create some value for the client. It's not just the 6 ways that we've helped X to do Y through Z, and which is a fine process, and lots of people use it, and having something is better than nothing. But I think that just creating that individualization and the hyper-personalization, I actually did a webinar earlier this morning, and I spoke at length about hyper-personalization. I was asked on a podcast the other day, what do I think is the future of marketing? And it's really about how do we really create that connection individually at scale, which is like talking about jumbo shrimp. It's 2 sides of the coin. How do we create that opportunity for you to get to know more about the client, but also to get the client to engage with the business, but not seem like they're being harassed. When I first started my first business, the marketing and sales balance was marketing would occur. They'd call it literally a 1-800 number in the newspaper, because we had adverts in every newspaper in Australia, and the sales team would receive that. And that person would then have to, the salesperson had the opportunity, and the clients had the patience to listen to the story and build trust and credibility and all of those things along the marketing path. What I've found now is marketing is now doing the trust and credibility and all of those steps. And then the salesperson at the end has to be really, really good. They don't have much time. People don't have the time or energy to engage too much. So being able to provide great levels of value in that marketing phase, where it's lower touch and doesn't require a person to engage at a personal level on a phone call is really powerful.
Yeah, 100%. So perfect example, like, yes, it's the future, but it's also happening now. So if and you were to log into Amazon.com, what would we see? Totally different landing pages.
For me.
100%. Yeah. You'd see a completely different page to me. And that's the idea. The idea is to get to put a quiz funnel, lead magnet, or whatever in front of your audience that's so useful that they fill it out, and then that tells you specific things about them. Maybe only half your audience is looking to buy in the next 6 months, but the other half, wants to buy 12 months from now, but they still want to get to know you for 12 months, because it's a long emotional purchase. Or maybe maybe half of your audience want a product that is totally done for you, where it's just, I'll pay more, just do it for me. And the other half is, no, I'll pay less, but happy to do it half the work. So there's very different ways to talk to these different types of people, and if you just nail that, then you're really going to impress straight out of the gate.
Yeah, and when I speak to clients who have gone through that process, I can talk intelligently about their gap rather than talking about all the stuff they already know anyway. And they've already got value. My opening question is, so what did you get out of it, and what did you learn?
Yeah.
And that's an incredible way to start the conversation because it's already about them. It's all about them, not about
Yeah.
how,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to do X, Y, and Z and A, B, and C. So look, mate, now I know that the people who are listening to this, you go, well, if that sounds interesting, you've got a giveaway you want to put out there for
Yeah.
people as well, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have this book, which I think you know, Scorecard
I
Marketing.
I do. Look at mine. It's got notes. It's got stuff written in it
You know,
everywhere.
yeah.
Sticky notes. Yeah, well, can't see, but yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of these in physical copy that I can get posted out to people while stocks last. So, we share a link. The link is scoreapp.com/book. So ScoreApp.com/book. And if we can't get you a physical copy, you get a PDF immediately anyway.
Mate, I'll put that link in the show notes for everybody listening and watching. So that's absolutely no problem at all. This is a video and an audio podcast, so we'll make sure that people can get that. So, mate, what I wanted to also talk about is your role. So we've talked about your role as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You've talked about your role as the chief revenue officer for ScoreApp. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your investment role. How do you think about investments, and do you have a structure and process you go through to find those investments that do work for you?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a better entrepreneur than I am as an investor, because an entrepreneur's got to be an ultra optimist, right? They've got to think, oh, what could go right? You know, they've got to just almost keep looking at blue sky. But an investor is a really good investor is the opposite. They think, what could go wrong? And they think, why am I so special to find this, this good opportunity? When an entrepreneur is like, I'm so special, I find all the good opportunities, right? It's a completely opposite end of the spectrum. So sometimes it's hard for me to switch between the two, and really I try to blend the two. So I only put money into an investment that I think, okay, if this is my company, how would I build it? And does that make sense to me? And is this person doing something similar to that, or can I help them to make the most out of it? So I really just use investing almost like as a Trojan horse to wedge in and take a seat in a company that I like, that I can help scale.
Interesting.
So I use investment
as a Trojan horse again. So do you follow your interest when it comes to investing? You mentioned earlier in our conversation that what do we do in COVID? We sit around and we either work and drink wine. And I also know that you have an investment in an alcohol business. Do you follow your own interest? Do you let that color your strategy, or is it more numbers and dollars and cents?
Yeah, good question. So I think a lot of this is self-awareness, right? So going into an investment or a business opportunity, you sort of decide very quickly, okay, is this more of a hobby? And then what can I allocate to that? Time, resources, right? Because I have multiple businesses. Or is the idea to make this a money-making machine? Right. So there's different buckets. Those are the main two. So right now I'm not taking on any more new hobbies because I got plenty. Right. I've got free communities. I'm writing a book, which I don't know what that's going to achieve, but I want to do it. And then so everything else that I'm looking for right now is just money making machine. Like, is this a money making machine that I'm one of the better people that I know to execute it because of my interests, passion, drive, network, resources, relationships. 1, 2, 3.
Got it. So I don't think this would be a podcast with entrepreneurs if I didn't ask about, do you break your days up like a routine? I'm not expecting you to have ice baths, but is there a daily routine that gets you in that zone to go ahead or do you have days that you do certain things? For me, I have a certain days that I do content, certain days that I have client conversations, certain days that I do thinking. Yeah. Do you break your days up like that or hours like that? How do you what's the week look like for you or a day look like for you?
Yeah, good question. So, well, first of all, I wish I was cool enough to have an ice bath. I'm not. Yeah, I just don't have one. I would love to have one. I'd love to take that photo every morning.
Yep.
So the way I describe myself is I've learned, I've tried everything. I've tried to be like a worker bee where you do the same thing every day and that type of thing. But I'm much more of like a lion. So a lion wakes up 5 a.m. They hunt for 3 hours of the day when their mind is sharp, where they haven't eaten, so they've fasted, so they're at that that state of Because you know how when you eat, you feel a little bit sleepy, right? And it
Sure.
actually drags you down. But when you're hungry, it keeps you sharp. So they go out hunting when they're hungry, which obviously makes a lot of sense. So I like to do that. So, the first 3, 4, 5 hours of the day to me are like the golden hours. I get more work done and more thinking done, more productive time done in that time than the other 20 hours of the day. So I like to batch everything up in the morning. That includes, my fitness, which to me is like hygiene. It's a bit like meditation. So I don't go to the gym just because I want big muscles or whatever. I go to the gym because it's like a morning coffee. It keeps greases the engine every morning and turns it on and keeps wheels moving.
Yep. It feels
And
like you've won something, like you've achieved something. You've been able to get there, and that little bit of discipline is like your first win of the day, right?
I understand what you're saying, but that's not for me. So my
Okay.
achievement is uh, uh my achievement is I don't really have one of those, to be honest. Like I seriously go to the gym and make sure I do that, because if I don't, then it's almost like having half a night of sleep. Like I'm just not, all the ingredients aren't there for a good day type of thing.
Right.
Energetically. So go to the gym. Do emails. I try not to do this, but I do emails at the gym. In between sets, because
Yeah.
my brain's just firing off. It's a bit like when you sing in the shower. It's like, oh, why do all these ideas come to me in the shower? Well, because you you switch into a different lane, and that lane has no distractions, right?
Yes.
So then I'll probably use 95% of my brain within that window, and then probably drop down to like less than 20% for the remaining. So I make sure I don't make any big decisions outside of that window of the first 4 hours of the day.
Really?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
able to discipline yourself? So do you say, well, that's a good idea? How do you not make that decision? Do you then literally say to yourself or to your partners and investors, oh, well, let's talk about that in the morning? How do you discipline
Yeah,
yourself
yeah.
around not making those decisions?
So, yeah, I'll put it off. I'll put it off until the next day. So, and that's not me not wanting to work. It's just, I know that it's not a good decision because I've made that mistake many, many times. So some people, they prefer to be like a worker bee, where they work consistently just throughout the day, and then they have their lunch,
Yes.
coffee, tea, maybe a smoke break type of thing, and they can just keep working. I'm not like that. So I've learned and really made peace with, okay, look, I'm a lion, and I've got very little. I do sprints, so I'm a sprinter. I'm
Yep.
not. I'm not a marathon run, right? So I do a big sprint in the morning, and then I'm really tired, and then I've got to wait till the next day.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So when thinking about your team that you work with, who do you, as a chief revenue officer, so who do you mainly engage with on a daily basis in relation to team? Because a lot of the entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast, they're building their business. They're trying to
Yeah.
grow, and rather than just be all about sales and marketing, which is the lifeblood of an organization, but
Yeah.
then of course people have got to execute, got to drive. So how much time do you spend with your team engaging that way?
Yeah. So, how much time do I spend with my team? Uh, I think I spend time with the team every day. Otherwise,
Yeah.
things aren't working or something's broken, right? Like if all team members aren't interacting with each other, they don't need to talk to every single person, but they're not like, uh, it's very rare that a team can work in 100% silos. I'll put it to you that way.
Do you have an
Uh,
office? So do you guys run from an office, or do you all
yeah,
distributed?
it's a Slack channel. The office is a Slack
Yep.
channel.
Yep. Got it. Yep.
Yeah,
Mine
yeah.
too.
But what I would say about team is, so in my last business where we scaled to, $2.5 million a year in less than 2 years.
And just on
Uh,
that, by the way, those four original founders, did the business grow to more team beyond
yeah,
those four, or were you able to sell enough courses that the core was able to stay?
yeah. So at the peak, we had 23 team members.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Got
So
it.
it was a big enterprise at the peak of it. 23 team members, all around the world. Not all of them were full time, but we did have
Yep.
23, bodies that we interacted
Hmm.
with that kept the engine moving. And then we also, um, in that process, I hired and fired easily more than 50 people. So I really learned the pain of putting the wrong person in the wrong role or letting the wrong person in the first place, right? And
Yep.
and also that if you have, three A players, three Michael Jordans, and then there's one B player, the team at best will only perform as high as the B player, because for some reason, just one B player and a team of A's just creates a lot of friction. Not in terms of conflicts, but just in terms of weighing things down, slowing things down. Like, typically if there's three A players, one B player, at least one of those A players will want to leave because they'll get frustrated with the B player, and then that pulls it down. Like, there's so many reasons why, for some reason, this is the law. The law of the weakest link. Yeah.
Absolutely. I had exactly that situation where I let a B player continue on, and on reflection, I got to a point where they weren't able to operate. So I only ever managed the salespeople, right? My wife managed the other 50 something people that were in the organization. I just managed the sales and marketing people because they were like me. And the salesperson, one of the top, he was second top performer. He was toxic in the sales room. Rather than me being a big boy and actually moving them on, I let them continue to their poor behavior, and I moved them to a different office. Well, what that did is created a signal to my team that that sort of weakness is okay. And I actually know, you can actually see from now with 10 years of distance on it, I can go, that's the moment that I started really eroding my business, that I let this nonsense carry on. And it's almost like I promoted the nonsense because I allowed him to go sit in a separate office where the sales team were in a team room.
Yeah.
So I almost rewarded it.
Yeah. It takes a lot of, guts and awareness and stuff to actually action that in the moment. And a lot of people think, I don't want to cause problems and rifts and whatever. But, in hindsight, I've asked so many people this question, and the answer is always the same. It's I should have ripped the Band-Aid 3 years ago type of thing. Because what happens is, like, I've got it in one of my businesses now, that, there's a bunch of A players. There's probably like 50-50 A and B players and some C players. And I've gone to a point where, like, I'm not the CEO of that business, so I'm more of like an outsourced A player. But I've said to the other A players, look, I don't want to work with that person. Directly. Like, if there's any project that him and I have to work together, it just won't work, because I'm going to get frustrated because it takes him 4 days to respond to an email that asks one question, right? And right, exactly that feeling. So and then they show up to meetings late, and then meetings, we really need to talk once a week. And for some reason, he's always in a dodgy internet location, and he's always from his phone, and it's just like, that's your only job, to just be in this call 1 hour a week at this one time, at the same time every week.
Right.
So,
it's not a surprise meeting.
Yeah, but you just can't do that. So, and see, when you hear me talk about it, you feel my frustration. You just feel like the whole energy just drop. Like there's a weight, there's lead weights in the ship, and it has one hole in it, and it just takes one hole that starts to drop down the ship, right? So, like, I don't care about are you from Harvard or accreditations or degrees or whatever. I care about character, attitude. Like, are you a victim or are you a champion, right?
Yes.
And then reliability. Like, are you just going to randomly not pick up the phone for a week because you're bored and you feel like it, right? And if you can tick all of that, then a lot of magic can happen. Like just I've experienced it. I've experienced just 4 A players hungry, in the right place at the right time, right market, and then all of a sudden, by the end of that, we did an event in London. I was walking down the street. People were stopping me to take photos because we had made such a big impact in the industry.
How cool is that?
Yeah, how cool is that?
Really cool.
And that's like, we've really created like a magical intersection of performance. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, very cool. So thinking about your other investments that you've gone, what's been the most fun investment? Like, so I know that investment, need to, as you said, we need to think about it mathematically, but has there been one that's actually been like, that was great fun and I continue to enjoy that one?
Yeah, great fun. I continue to enjoy that one. To be honest, this ScoreApp one is probably the most fun. It's A, making the most money. I've
Yep.
gotten like a 7.8 times return so far
That's
on
pretty
money
good.
in, right? It's pretty
Yep.
good. And we're only about halfway, so that'll be double, right? By the time we
Yep.
get to the end of it.
What do you mean halfway?
Like the company's half the size of the target that we want it to
Oh,
be
okay. So
before.
you
Yeah.
got the business plan is in place. You go, okay, it's going to
Yeah,
be
well,
X, and
halfway
now we're
through the
halfway
business
to
plan.
X.
Halfway
Got
through
it.
the business plan, yeah.
What's
And
the horizon on that? Sorry I'm
yeah,
interested.
yeah,
So what's
yeah,
the
yeah.
horizon on that?
So I think we'll probably close in on the other half, probably in about 24 months, so
Wow.
about 2 years. Yeah, yeah,
Are you able to say what's next?
yeah. No, it's just, $100 million company,
Got it.
$100 million by valuation. So that's the
Really
number,
fun.
and so we're about halfway there now, and that's a really cool number. Yeah,
That is a cool number.
yeah,
I think half that's a pretty cool number. Actually,
yeah.
I was speaking the podcast I released today. The gentleman I met at COVID in Brisbane, coffee with him, and
Uh,
he's just raised 10 at a valuation of 50. And
uh,
so he's delighted, got AFR Fast 100, and
uh,
so he's a friend of mine. So Daniel is absolutely delighted now with that extra capital. He's able to really put the foot down on the business. So the 100. So is it 100 to 200 or is it 100 to exit?
no, 50 to 100, and
Yeah, no,
then
sorry, but once you get 100, is it to exit or is it to or that's a decision for the future?
yeah, I think exit's always been on the table.
Got it.
Like because then you close the loop, right? You've done the whole journey. You've done from
Yes.
infancy to graduation, right? Graduation's like exit, like yeah,
Yeah, very cool. What a great story to be able to, bring this thing
yeah,
together with, paddle pop sticks and baling twine with Jot Form and Google Forms and various things, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
and be able to mature that idea. Obviously, confluence of ideas have come together and then brought together and exited that sort of number. That's fantastic. So okay, so your current one's the best. What's been your worst investment?
yeah. It's a good thing to talk about. So I think it was 2013, so almost like 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit more. And I paid deposit on an apartment off the plan in Brisbane. I won't say which one, but
No.
oversold, way too small. I didn't know what I was doing. Like I was 20 at the time, type of thing, and I was shattered. So it was like 2 years before it was ready to settle. And then it was ready to settle, and all the valuations came in under because they were oversold and they cut
Yikes.
corners and just like the worst case scenario, right? And didn't have a lot of money as a 20-year-old.
Yep.
I was right on the edge, calculated exactly what I needed, and I was 10% short. 10%
Oof.
short is 10% more than what I had, right? So
Yep.
um, I had to walk away from it, and also it was the best decision to walk away from it. So I just gave them my deposit. I said, look, take my deposit and sell it to another buyer who gets a 10% discount because this I did the math, and if I just found the money somehow to have settled on it, it still would have taken me 7-8 years to get back to on par. Just how the market was moving
Gee.
because it was
Yeah.
oversold,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you're under and you have to crawl up again, right? So
Yep. Yep.
I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense, like just mathematically. So the emotion, even though it's my first house, I was in love with it. I picked the tiles and everything, right? Like, but then taking the emotion out, it was just no way near a good decision. So
Yep.
I'm in a much better financial position now, letting go of that money than handcuffing myself to that mortgage.
Seeing a couple of patterns here that we let go of bad performing investments, and if we can let go of bad performing people, then those anchors get cut away, and then the ship can move forward a lot faster.
Yeah, you like it doesn't feel like at the time. It takes a lot
No.
of scar tissue to learn this, right? But like every single time, in hindsight, yeah, if I just pivoted, done the U-turn, instead of driving down the wrong way all the way, you do a U-turn, bang, come back. That's how you move faster in a big
very
picture.
cool. So how do you think about when you're working with an investment and you don't have control? How do you add value there? Is it through connections? Is it through ideas? How do you add value as a board member? Because I know you're also a board member of a number of organizations.
Yeah.
How do you personally feel that you add value in that circumstance?
Yeah. So there's two levers that I like to play with. One lever is investment. So that's, my own money, and maybe they need a bit more. So I help them to get a bit more. And usually the more capitalized a business is, the less likely it is to fail. So I'm securing my investment by helping them find more investment. And then sales, right? So, we all know that 99% of businesses over a 10-year horizon won't exist. Only 1% get past that 10-year horizon, which means that 99% of your investments, unless you know exactly when to get in and get out, you won't get out, and that money will just you will have just lit that on fire. However, 0% of any business at any one point in time that has positive cash flow goes under because it has positive cash flow. So how do you generate positive cash flow? Leads and sales. That's also why I love ScoreApp, because ScoreApp solves is a key tool in the thing that actually really matters the most, like who's going to buy this, when they're going to buy it, how much they're going to pay for it, right? So I like to help with dancing between investment and sales.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, so just sort of switching gear to thinking about how you've been able to build your own personal profile and leveraging media. So how do you think about leveraging media, and how do you think about building your personal profile and also, the businesses? Because ScoreApp stands on its own 2 feet, not being insulting, but it's not the Maxwell Nee show. It's the Daniel Priestley show. Well, it's in certain form. And I'm not, I think I've just walked myself into some sort of insult, but not really. But so how do you, so how do you personally think about media, and how do you think personally about growing your own profile? And what could you teach? What could you teach? I guess the point of my question is, how can you teach the people listening to this podcast or watching this podcast about that and the value of doing those things?
Yeah, so this is a very funny question for me, right? Because I've never gone out to purposely build my profile, which is a lesson within itself. So I've never gone out to personally build my profile, but when I talk to people, when people talk to me, they say stuff like, "Oh, you have such a great profile." So that tells me two things. The first thing is that whether you like it or not, you are building a profile. You know what I mean? Like, it's happening anyway. It's happening anyway, and it happened to people by accident. And fortunately, it's happened in a good accident, but there's a lot of bad accidents, right? There's a lot of accidents that go in the bad bucket as well. So, whether you like it or not, like maybe you're building the, hey, I'm silent and I just don't do much on LinkedIn. I don't take LinkedIn seriously profile, which is, I heard this interesting stat that only 1% of LinkedIn actually post content. The other 2% actually comment on the content. The other, 97% just lurk. So are you building the profile of being a lurker? If you're not, well, you are by definition. As a default, you're building the profile as a lurker. You're building the profile as someone that doesn't take their image seriously, and that in itself is a profile. You know what I mean? So I think that you're either got your hands on the steering wheel or you're asleep at the wheel in terms of your profile, which is a pretty scary thing to realize, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so, and when you get approached by, obviously podcasts like mine and Forbes magazines and those types of things, do you see that as do you enthusiastically engage with those media outlets? Is that something you, now that you are in the role that you are, is that something you really, you try to chase, or is that really more of a, I'll take it if it comes along?
It's a bit of both, like I only chase it if there's a purpose. So the purpose right now is, to promote ScoreApp and let people know about it. 'Cause we have a very, very strong brand and following in the Northern Hemisphere because everyone in the Northern Hemisphere, except for me and the team, is based, in and around Australia. But
Right.
I'm in charge of, Asia Pacific. So yes, there is a deliberate business purpose. However, I would say that even if you didn't have a deliberate business purpose, put your hands on the steering wheel and build your profile and do some podcasts, like at the very least, like podcasting is so underrated. You know, the average person that listens to podcasts listens to one episode a day, right? And that episode is typically, say, an hour. They listen to an hour's worth, which means that you're looking at engaging an audience for 7 hours a week. That's more quality time than a lot of people spend with their partners, right?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's right.
you're in the ear, at the gym, uninterrupted, and they've tuned in, they've searched you, or they've clicked in, right? And all of a sudden, an hour goes past, and not just that, like people listen to your podcasts. Podcasts have a really long tail. So,
Yes.
like people will ask me about like that worst investment podcast that we were just talking about. I did that like 3 years ago, right? That's
Right.
totally, yeah. So it's totally not present. It's not in my awareness. It's the last business venture before the last business venture, right? So it was a lifetime ago type of thing. So
Yeah. But in my research, when I was preparing for this conversation, I found that. I found it, and it
yeah,
lives out there forever.
it lives out there forever, right? So there's all this real estate that can be acquired for free, by getting into the content game. And podcasts is great because you don't have to be a content genius. You just have to talk to someone. Like I've got to talk to you, talk to me, and as a byproduct, we're making some cool content.
Yeah. Look, and how I think about podcasts is the sniff test I want to give to my content is this something of use and value that a best fit client for me or a person in my buying persona, would they want to share it with a colleague? Because if you think
Yeah,
about how businesses go viral, not that I'm expecting the podcast to go particularly viral, but be nice if it did. But if you think about Jira or Canva or any of those types of apps and Facebook that have gone viral, they've been from one person to 2 to 4. They've grown that way because you've made non-customers aware of what you do.
yeah,
And so that's how I think about the podcast is, does it pass the sniff test of actually being useful and valuable? Because
yeah,
sending out content for content's sake and saying, oh, well, if you're a florist and take a photo of a flower and say it's a good day to be a florist, that's useless. Nobody cares
yeah,
about that. That's not interesting. And none of your florist clients are going to say, well, I need to share this photo because that was a cool photo of a flower. It's not going to make it.
yeah,
So that's why I have these conversations. And also I get to talk to people from Singapore or anywhere in the world from my home office and
yeah,
actually ask
yeah,
people. And also I'm interested in people. So why wouldn't I want to do that? So that's and now, since I've been doing this for the last couple of months, the number of new leads that have come into the business I got to a point where I need to start throttling the number of people I can take on board.
yeah. Great,
So that's,
nice.
because I'm a full service business, right? I need to get into the course business. But
Yeah,
at the moment I'm in the service business. So I have to throttle the number of clients that I
yeah.
can take on
Time of
board.
the day.
And that's just,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So how do you think about, so just sort of switching gear back to you, this is not the Matthew podcast. So how do you think about a balance when it comes to your, your physical, your mental, your social? How do you think about balance there, or is balance doesn't exist?
I think it depends how you distinguish the word balance. But as someone that used to burn out in my last business, working 17 hours a day, I used to burn out every 10 weeks, right?
What did burnout
Because
look like for you?
like I'd wake up, my brain felt like it was melting.
But don't want to, can't even.
Yeah, yeah. My brain felt like it was melting. I was really short temper, and I was getting sleep, but the brain, it's like you're saying you're sleeping, but you're keeping your MacBook on, on full throttle, right? But the MacBook was always on, like just a year at a time type of thing. You never reset the Mac,
Right.
just like that. So, I think it. So when I answer questions like this, I try to be specific and tangible and try to give an example so that something actually lands. Because I hate it how you just talk about things esoterically and vague and blue sky and no one people hear nice buzzwords, but nothing, no, synaptic dots actually connect in someone's
Connections, yeah.
brain,
Got
right?
it. And how do I apply
So,
this to me? So go from strategic
yeah,
to tactical. How do I think
yeah.
about?
Like,
Yeah, cool. So
what do you actually
yeah,
do? So, the first thing I would say is you want to, um, everyone is different. Some people, like, I'll give you an example. I personally thrive in chaos. If someone if all 6 of my businesses emailed me on a Monday morning, first thing Monday morning, hey, we've got this big problem. Hey, we've got this big problem. We've got this thing. I would actually explode with excitement. Like, I don't sort of want that to always happen because it gets exhausting. I would, once a quarter, I would explode with excitement to get my teeth and into fixing these big problems because I love fixing problems and I thrive in chaos. Now, obviously, that sounds like a worst nightmare to a lot of the population, right? Like,
yep,
especially if you're a bit more methodical and especially if you're a bit more, slow moving and you like things to be in order, you like to be organized and that type of thing. I like to be organized as well, but I also love a good going to battle, like wake up, bang, 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 guns blazing, we're under the pump. I love being under the pump, but not all the time. So it really is about the self-awareness to learn, okay, what recharges your batteries and what makes your batteries go flat. What makes my batteries go flat is the same monotonous thing over and over and over and over and over again. That's why I've got 6 businesses. So that I've got this conveyor
yes,
belt of variation that, some days I play tennis, right? In terms of the tennis business. Some days I play baseball. Some days I play pickleball. Some days I swim, so I need that variation. But some people hate that. Some people just they want to be like Tiger Woods, like just play golf and do like a really, really like
walk
ultra
up.
ultra
Yeah,
finesse, but very siloed and one dimensional thing. I like 10 dimensions type of thing. So balance for me is first of all realizing, what type of athlete are you? Are you a triathlete? Are you more of a Tiger Woods where you just want to be ultra one dimensional, like one dimension within one dimension? Or do you want to be a bit in the middle, like a Roger Federer, where you're playing tennis, so you're doubles tennis, men's mix, right? Women's type of thing, or you want to be a triathlete where you're, swimming, sprinting, running, and cycling, right? So first of all, it's like, who are you and what are you, and which one of those sounds exciting to you, and which one do you hate? Sometimes it's a lot easier to identify what you don't like. It's like, hey, what
yes,
kind of food you don't like? I hate mushrooms, right? So I could say that, but if you
right.
ask me what I do like, I get stuck between steak, lobster, pasta, sashimi, but what I don't like. So be really honest with what you don't like and cut that out of your life. Like, in school, this is where school really, fucks people up. So school teaches you that you just got to deal with it. You got to deal with what you don't like.
Yep.
You're gonna be graded and judged, and your value in society is gonna be measured against what you don't like, whether you like it or not. But in the real world, entrepreneurs create a life around their strengths
Yes.
and then they manage their weaknesses, right? And
Hundred
that's
percent.
how it's done, So, um, you don't see Elon Musk like. Well, there's a really funny quote in like this storytelling book, and it says, "You don't see James Bond taking out doing his dry cleaning, right? But
No.
because that's not a good use of his time, and like he's
Yeah,
out there saving
exactly.
the world and stuff. So don't be James Bond doing their dry cleaning just because school told you you have to do that. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, very cool. And so when you think about balance, you actually you attack the things that you like to do,
Yeah.
and so do you then find people in your organization to do the dry cleaning, because they might be dry cleaning, the key person of influence of dry cleaning. They might be, well, that's the
Yeah,
person that
keep
needs to do that because they love that, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah,
I'm playing the reference game here. Don't worry about
yeah,
it.
yeah. No,
So they might be the best dry cleaning person ever to take those dry cleaning to the shop. So that's how you think about it.
yeah. So I think about it as everyone has a battery. I don't care who you are. I don't care how fit you are. I don't care if you have, you know, like 14 fingers. Everyone has a battery. And
Yep.
for me, balance is about keeping your battery fully charged,
Yes.
spiritually, emotionally, creatively, physically, you know. and what do I need to fill in my own cup to keep my battery fully charged? Because when your battery's not charged, what it looks like is you're snapping at your kids, or you're snapping at your partner, or you're starting to go
Hiding in the scroll.
overweight, right? You're hiding in the
Yeah.
scroll. You know,
Yeah.
everything is dull. Like things that make you happy don't make you happy anymore, and then you're switching to numbing, which might be like unnecessary alcohol and things like that, right? But if your battery is fully charged, you know, you're a real. It's like super cheesy, but it's true. You're a real like beacon of light, and people want to be around you, and you're awesome, and you're magnetic, and you're attractive, and you're authentic, and that uh, is sexy and attractive. And if you're single, that actually helps you to attract more mates, right? So it's like, what do you need to do to keep your battery fully? Like, what type of animal are you? And then what do you need to do to keep your battery fully charged?
Yeah, I love that. So when I met Daniel, we were part of a business group, and the person there talked about lean into your capabilities. Obviously, as you cycle up in business, you'll get better at the weaknesses, but you just don't want to spend all your time focusing on building your weaknesses, because then you'll just have good weaknesses, and which of course is you know, then it causes a cognitive break, which of course causes burnout and that type of thing. Well, mate, look, I've really enjoyed our conversation. I know you've got a huge agenda of probably things to do. Actually, it might be in the afternoon, so it might be time to switch your brain off and go and just lay in a fugue state. But mate, so thank you so much for your time. Do you want to let people who are listening on the radio, or the audio radio? Goodness, how old am I? The audio about the website that people can grab the book again.
Yeah. So ScoreApp, ScoreApp.com/book. And we'll get you either the physical copy if we got some extra supply. If not, you get the PDF.
Yep. So please do that. Maxwell, really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. Hopefully at some stage in the future, you get to be one of the cool kids and get that ice bath. And so that's, we can, aim for big goals for you, mate. So, there's maybe when we get that $100 million level, you can,
exactly.
Be cool.
I'll definitely, I'll have to buy an ice bath then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. All right, mate. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. All the best.
Cheers.
See ya.